Sometimes the things you're looking for are a lot closer than you think. Most recent trip, we found a nice spot outside of Sisters to stop for lunch. It's amongst the tall pine trees and beautiful countryside. It's a nice little road stop for lunch. And that butte you see off to the right there, that's Black Butte, which is also outside of Sisters. And here's a view of Mount Washington. This is the Santiam Pass up in the Cascades. This road we have traveled so many times. It's easy to see how nice it is. You see the fall colors there. Easily, we've driven this road over 100 times. Back and forth to see family, back and forth to vacations. When I was growing up, our dad would take us to Whispering Falls or Riverside Campground along the Santiam, and then later than that, he took us to Metolius River, and we'd cross this road. Sonia, when she was a kid, her parents would take her to Twin Lake. And we've traveled this road when we lived over in the valley and we'd come over here for vacations, or now that we live over here, coming back to see family. That's Three-Fingered Jack there. Lost Lake is interesting. You see there's no water in it. If you catch it at the right time of year, you can actually see the whirlpool where the water is basically drained from the lake every year. And this lava field we've passed so many times. I remember stopping as a kid and the bushes out there that turn red in the fall like this. It almost makes it look like it's on fire. Love exploring the lava flows. Lots of fun. Normally we take this route over the mountains to get to and from family or to and from another destination. We never really explore this area very much. This time we decided to do a little more exploring closer to home. We drive through this area so often we talk about the things to do up here but never do them. This time we decided to stop at this campground that we've seen many times on our travels back and forth but have never stopped at. It's Detroit Lake State Park outside of Detroit, Oregon. It was interesting to me that as many times as I've driven by it, I almost missed the turnoff to go to it. Probably from so many times of passing it by before. You get that mindset that, nope, we're just traveling through, but this time we decided to stop. Highway 22 goes by the campground, but honestly, the campground was very quiet and peaceful, and you're right next to the lake. We chose the campground further away from the highway. There are some campgrounds that actually back up to the highway itself, but we chose inside loop campground. G37, and that's our campsite. We needed a chance to unwind a little bit, do some relaxing, some recharging. Life has brought its own challenges as of late, and it was nice to be able to do that here. We had no set plans, no set goals other than rest and relax. Campground's nice. There's a lot of camping sites in it. In the wintertime, they do close a lot of the campsites down. There's two main loops they keep open, and if I recall correctly, they're open year-round. This is the section of the loop that's closer to the highway, and we got there on a Tuesday and left on a Friday. And when we first showed up, there was nobody camped in the outside loop. There was no reservation tags. When we left Friday, there was either a new camper in that site or a reserve tag on, I think, every single campsite we drove by. The campground has firewood available, and normally it has a little store. The store looks like a really cute, neat little store to go to. The time frame that we were there, this is mid-October, they had already closed it up for wintertime. It's kind of interesting with the increase in camping and the demand for campsites, that campgrounds like this still close a lot of loops down and close stores so early when the weather was terrific. It was mid to upper 70s during the day. It got down in the low 40s at night. It was clear every day we were there. I can't speak much of the fishing because I brought my fishing pole but never got my line wet, so I don't know how the fishing is, but it sounds like they stock this lake with a lot of trout every year. And I also read that there are largemouth bass in the lake, but I cannot speak to those because, again, I never even got my line wet. I don't even think I pulled my fishing pole out of the truck the whole time we were there. In the summertime of the year, the area that you can see those buoys sitting on the ground and the grass and the gravel, that's normally all underwater. But in the fall, annually, they drain the lake because part of the purpose of the lake is flood mitigation. You've got the Detroit Lake Dam, and then a little below that you have the Big Cliff Dam, and both of those also produce hydroelectric power. But the lake was still nice and clear, nice and blue. The scenery was very enjoyable. You can see in the distance the trees up on those hillsides are burnt stags left behind. I find it interesting the way fire acts, so unpredictable. There'll be spots of green in between all of the burnt trees, and it's just hard to understand why fire does what it does. So in August of 2020, mid to late August, 3 fires started up here. They were the Beachy Creek fire, the Lion's Head fire, and the P515 fire. As September rolled around, those 3 fires combined, and a heat wave along with some strong winds made the fire grow exponentially. And we drove through this area shortly after they opened the road back up, and it was just heart-wrenching to see the devastation that fire occurred. Those houses you see to the left there, and these houses, most of these houses are brand new construction. Because when we drove through back in 2020, all you could see was empty foundations and old chimneys. And every once in a while a house would still be there, but most of the places were reduced to ash and old foundations. The city of Detroit took a big hit during the fires. A lot of these houses you can see to the left, again, are brand new, and also there was a lot of trees that used to stand there and you couldn't see the trees initially. You couldn't see the houses initially because of the trees. There used to be a store right here that we would stop at on a regular basis for pit stops and snacks, and it was burnt down. And right here, there used to be a restaurant. The restaurant burnt down. I hope in the near future to see the restaurant and that store be rebuilt, but it's hard to say what's going to happen. It's been nice to see over the last couple of years the rebuilding of the houses and businesses and the regrowth of this area after such devastation. It'll be interesting to see what happens to this area over the next few years and how it changes. Sahalie Falls is one of those things we've been talking about for years of going and seeing. Don't know why it took us so long to finally pick a day and actually make it happen. The pathways through here were very well marked. Like this section to the Sahalie Falls, there were two paths. One was a gradual grade. There was a nice, wide, smooth trail that is wheelchair accessible. Another one has stairs, so you can go both routes. They both take you to the same overlook to the falls. This is along the Mackenzie River. There's actually a Mackenzie River trail that goes for miles along the Mackenzie River Valley. And the trails are really well marked and easy to navigate, and the views are gorgeous. The Mackenzie River was so clear. The water was just like crystal. The nice part about the Sahalie Falls is the water went down this narrow gorge. This trail follows the gorge for a while. In fact, this trail will take you to the next falls, the Koosah Falls. And this section of the trail is not wheelchair accessible, but it's still well marked. And it's a beautiful trail. And you can see the water rushing through the gorge and the beautiful blues and just gorgeous, gorgeous scenery. I think it'd be kind of nice if the Forest Service was to advantageously trim a few trees so that the view was better, to help keep people from going off the trail to get a better look. But it's still beautiful, and the video here doesn't do it justice. The colors and the sound of the rushing water is very relaxing. Just a really, really nice walk. Koosah Falls was another one. It's not too far from Sahalie Falls, and it's a nice short walk. And, if you end up like we end up being is with health issues, we have to look at what we can do, not look at what we can't do. And we drove between Sahalie and Koosah. You can walk between the two falls, but we just adapt things to what we're able to do and what's within our limits, and we still get out and enjoy things. And just awesome to see the waterfalls. I mean, that's one of our more favorite things to go see. The sound of the water, the views, like the Mackenzie River here, so clean and clear. And I have to give my hats off to the Forest Service for these trails and the railing to keep you safe from falling off of certain areas was really well maintained and well kept, and we found it very peaceful back here. And we came back to this lookout, sat on the bench, and just sat and watched for for quite some time just to enjoy it and soak it all in. Brings back a lot of memories being out in the outdoors and enjoying God's creation. Another thing we love to do is go to fish hatcheries. One of our favorites is on the Metolius River outside of Sisters. This is the Marion Forks Fish Hatchery. This was actually built in 1951 by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. There's some nice walking trails through the area here. This is along Marion Creek. Marion Creek ties in with the Santiam River. We didn't take this trail too far down, but there's appears to be a lot of walking trails, and there's a campground at the inside of the fish hatchery. The campground itself is no hookups, but the spots looked well maintained. There was railing around all the campsites. They seemed to be spread apart a decent amount. We actually had thought about staying at this campground, but we opted to go to Detroit Lake State Park, and we had electric and sewer hookups. They had already shut the water off because of the time of year, and this cute little covered footbridge over Horn Creek, and it leads to residences of the employees for the fish hatchery. And respecting their privacy, we didn't go past the cone there, but Horn Creek is another just crystal clear stream. Awful pretty in that area. Then we explored the fish hatchery itself. This holding pond had some lunkers in there. Some of those fish were over 2 foot long. We didn't notice any fish food dispensers like we have at Metolius River, but some fish hatcheries have these dispensers with fish food, and you can put your quarters in and get some food out and go along these ponds and feed the fish, and it's a fun experience. We thoroughly enjoy it. And they had several ponds. A lot of these holding ponds had small fry fish, but it was still a lot of fun. So thanks a lot for coming along.